Good morning, everybody. It's a wonderful day today. It is so special. We are a unconditional, untraditional asset management company. So we want to start with something totally new. We want to take a picture of ourselves first.
Okay, right.
Come on.
Thank you.
ก็ที่5 นาที
Thank you. Please have a
Thank
seat. Today, our purpose actually is to share with you a very interesting investing hypothesis. We believe that museum quality artwork can be a very interesting institutional investable asset class in the future. I think it's not going to be too long and far away, perhaps within a 3 to 5 year time. We have a very interesting platform which is built on 4 pillars. If I can share the next slide with you. In our platform, we have 4 pillars, as I say, right? The first one is we would believe that we have the networking and sourcing advantage. And the second pillar that we have is a term which we believe is going to be widely used in the industry called post-acquisition value enhancement process. With a trademark, we call it the PAVE. The third pillar that we're going to use is by blockchain technology with smart contract to tokenize and fractionize ownership going forward. And then the last platform, which we're building in Singapore, is called ZR Exchange, which we prepare to be regulated in the near future. So today we have a very special guest. Actually, we have more than one special guest. Thank you, our panel, and also, Andy Warhol and Basquiat. But that special guest coming in the next 3 minutes is Mr. Dr. Zheng. Can we play the video, please?
Art is a special asset class. It's more than simply making an attractive financial return on investment. You can have art in your living or workspace so close to you that it brings visual and intellectual pleasure to you every day. I've been collecting for almost 3 decades, benefiting from sound and knowledgeable advice. It has been the most rewarding journey where I have met some of the most fascinating and talented people, like all the artists and professionals in the world of art along the way. Art is special. No other single asset class can bring you so much joy, fun, and rewards in so many ways at the same time. It preserves wealth and capital. It preserves the quintessential human character of mankind. My vision is that art has always been a very profound aspiration of humanity. It connects each and every one of us on a deep emotional level. Art is a force for good to the world. It leaves us more educated, more aware of our human condition and environment. It is our duty to share it without boundaries, to make it accessible without social restriction, and to make it more inclusive, giving a more equitable opportunity to all without any differentiation of status. My ongoing mission is not just to acquire the masterpieces and put them in my vault, but to utilize the different means I have, in particular with technology, to discover and own, to enhance and pave the way, to share, to engage and exchange with the community. I have collected museum-quality masterpieces with the same care, diligence, and passion as I have developed my portfolio of properties. It has inspired many of my life decisions and actions. It has brought me so much joy, and my hope is that it will continue to motivate more people the generations after ours. As an interest and personal hobby, as a commitment to philanthropy, as a strategy for substantial and sustainable growth.
It's wonderful. Thank you, Henry, which is a very special gift that Henry gave it to us today. It reminds me, Henry, 14 years ago, November the 8th, actually it's November the 4th, 2008. That was the day that President Obama was elected. You did similar work in Hong Kong with General Colin Powell, talk about leadership, taking charge. So I want to share the same feeling today, and thank you very much again. All right, so Francis, we have been speaking about museum quality art. Could you share with us what's your opinion on that and how we're going to bring it to the next generation?
Well, first, I'm delighted to be here. It's a bit hard to start speaking after the video, which I find is saying it all. The journey of an outstanding collector with all these beautiful moments of interaction with the art. The first thing I'd like to say is the art market has been incredibly resilient before we talk about museum quality works. 2021 was a year where there was a lot of liquidity, a lot of asset classes have done well, and art has done well as well. But surprisingly, moving into 2022, we continue to see a very resilient art market, especially at the top. Christie's, for the first half of this year, had one of the best first half on record with 4.1 billion US. We sold the Warhol, the Marilyn for 195 million, the Aman collection. We sold the Anbas collection and so on. And just a few days ago, as I was actually getting ready to speak on this panel to talk about museum quality works, we saw the headline-grabbing collection of the co-founder of Microsoft, Paul G. Allen, for a record of over 1.6 billion for the 200 paintings that were presented. And it's shattered a lot of records, not only the record of the most expensive collection ever sold in one go. It's the first time that the collection was sold over $1 billion, but also in that collection were 5 works that sold over 100 million US. And we know that just a few years ago, just selling works above 100 million was quite rare. And I think it really speaks for the strength of the art market, but specifically for the strength of museum quality works. And I think there were absolutely exceptional works in that collection across the board, especially at the very top. And Rosaline, yourself, you're so involved, so invested in the artwork. What did you think of the Paul Allen collection? And what did it? I'm sure it kind of moved you when you saw these works coming for sale. Such lineup of exceptional quality.
Yeah, I thought the Paul Allen, congratulations, first of all, Francis, for such a successful sale. Paul Allen was indeed a visionary collector. He started very early. He collected some of the best pieces, what we call museum quality. So it shows at the end of the day, quality beats everything. And you do need that very special museum quality to become that right asset class for collectors.
Some of the numbers, I mean, the Cézanne sold for 138 million, the Klim for 105 or 6, and these were bought for 40 million 15 years ago. So if you calculate the return, it's a very significant one. And I think it's not just for, we've seen it across the board on masterpiece level, not only for the works that have been sold in New York this year, but also for Asian art. We've seen fantastic returns in 8-digit numbers for Sanyu paintings, but also for Zawukis, which are artists much closer to our Asian audience. And I think these museum quality works are fundamentally driven by the quality, the rarity. What is it that we're talking about? And it's the quality of the work. They are seminal works, either from the technique or from the concept. So they are work that have inspired the rest of the body of work of the artist or the generation of artists. And because they are so relevant and so important, they make their way into museums. You know, Mont Saint-Victoire, Cézanne, he painted 37. 32 are in museums, the top museums. the Gauguin Maternité. This was the number 2. The other one is in Hermitage Museum in Russia. So if you want these works and you want to acquire them for your private collection, well, most of them are anyway already in institutions, which means that the value, it's being taken out of the market, which I think enhances even further the prices that they achieve.
Thank you, Francis and Rosaline. Rosaline, I want to ask you, this is a very special painting. I'm pretty sure it's in the high end of the museum quality. Could you share with us what's your thought behind it? Why you picked this painting to show it with our friends today? And, I want to understand the meaning behind it.
Well, yes, thank you, Eddie. This is indeed a museum-grade painting. If everybody who is aware of an artist, Jean-Michel Basquiat, who I'm sure a lot of you are very familiar with, reading from the newspaper of his auction results, that has been achieved records over records. So the title of this painting is called Dos Cabezas, Spanish meaning 2 heads. And then you can see the 2 heads represents 2 very important modern contemporary artists of our days. Andy Warhol on the right in his signature pose, his hand under his chin, and Jean-Michel Basquiat on the left with that wild hairstyle back in the early 80s. So this is a painting that Jean-Michel Basquiat made on the 4th of October, 1982, when he was first formally introduced to his long-term idol, Andy Warhol. He went to Andy's studio, The Factory in Union Square, where Andy Warhol used his big Polaroid camera to take pictures of Basquiat. And at the end, Jean-Michel requested a joint photo using the Polaroid camera. So a friend took an image of the Polaroid, which Basquiat straight away took it back to his studio and produced this amazing painting as a gift to Andy Warhol in less than 2 hours, with the painting and also the delivery of the work. And in fact, at the time, Basquiat could not find an empty canvas to do this painting. So it was actually painted over a portrait of his other friend. If everybody have been to Mr. Chow, the restaurant owner in New York, so we would probably be able to find Mr. Chow's face somewhere beneath that. So this is a historically very important double portrait of the 2 artists, and it is in fact the only one that Basquiat had ever made of the 2 of them together. It was a gift that Andy Warhol treasured. Upon receiving this work, he was actually very flattered and felt that Basquiat was an amazing artist. He said to his colleagues in the factory, "I'm very jealous of Basquiat. He is faster than me," because he managed to paint this work in just under 2 hours, together with the delivery time of the work, still dripping wet with paint. So this shows the great talent of Basquiat as a very raw street artist, and at the same time, his speed. This painting was kept by Andy Warhol during his lifetime, and it was only sold by the estate upon his death. But since it's been created, it has been the dream work of every institutions and museums. So since 1992, it has been exhibited at the Whitney Museum of American Art, at the Le Mignot collection in Houston. And then most recently in 2017, it was exhibited at the centerpiece of Boom for Real, the first ever retrospective in the UK Barbican Centre. And last year in 2021, May, Christie's and HomeArt, we collaborated to introduce to our Hong Kong audience for the very first time 11 masterpieces of Jean-Michel Basquiat works. And this work, Dos Cabezas, proved to be one of the most popular, as they were interested in knowing this very unique story of the 2 artists, of their special friendship, and of how Basquiat admiration for his idol can be put on a canvas just like that in less than 2 hours.
Rosaline, thank you. I have two questions for you. First of all, you say you showed this painting in Hong Kong with Christie. I've been there. And can you share with me what is your observation on the demographic, audience, and what kind of trend you see, particularly on this painting?
Well, I see the trend is that artists like Basquiat and Andy Warhol, they are blue chip artists, museum quality artists, that even the young collectors of the young generation, the Z generation, the millennium collectors, they look at these brand names. And they are very modern artists. They were very much before of their time. Basquiat and Warhol, they were both very innovative, and they looked at technology and incorporated those into their artwork. Basquiat was in fact the very first artist to ever use the Xerox machine to make art. And of course, Andy Warhol was well known to be using the most updated photography elements to take photos, like the Polaroid. So therefore, I think this painting and paintings of artists such as Warhol and Basquiat speaks to the younger generation. They are timeless pieces.
Great, pretty interesting. You were saying that Andy Warhol was jealous. I'm jealous. But I'm not jealous anymore now because, business plan, our model, we actually want to have the opportunity for all of us here to be part owner. So I'm no longer jealous. So speaking about the trend, right? In Asia, you believe the younger generation particularly like this painting. I would like to ask Kevin, when you're a private collector as well as a professional in the industry, can you share with us what you have seen in the last 10 years and what do you think is going to be the next 10 years in Asia, in the art world?
Before I answer your question, I have a more interesting question that I think everyone wants to know. It must be worth a lot of money, right, Rosaline?
We said we wouldn't give a number.
It will worth more, I tell you.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, thank God. No, I can't hear myself. I don't know why. But anyway, sorry, what was the question? The trend.
I'm saying, what have you experienced in the last 10 years in your job, and what are you thinking and believing in the next 10 years?
Well, first of all, I can't believe that I'm actually talking about art as an investable asset, because when I first started in this business, I'm talking about 16 years ago, we would never, the company I worked for, the art auction house, I've just retired, we were actually never encouraged to talk about investment. In those days, investment was like almost an ugly word. Art was so high up there. It's good making money from art, but don't link money to art. But anyway, in the last 15, 20 years, I think one phenomenon is this crazy, the art prices have actually skyrocketed. Now today, I think to buy a decent painting, you're talking about spending $2, $3, $4 million easily. To buy something of that quality, you're talking about 20, 30, 40, 50 million. Now, I think it's almost unreal and almost hypocritical these days not to actually talk about, or to think about investment or return on the investment when you're spending that kind of money. I think that is the trend. In the last 20 years, I think art prices shot up to such a crazy level that it has actually become a very important investment and asset class. The second change during my career was to see the rise of Asian collectors, especially Chinese collectors, as a formidable art collecting power. I remember when I first started, the Chinese weren't really buying that crazily, but then gradually I suppose as China opened up, as China became wealthier, it's like anything in life, right? Once you don't have to worry about food, you then tend to seek satisfaction from a higher intellectual, cultural level. So when the Chinese started buying, I remember that the journalists in the West would love to ask me this question. Very unfair. The question I got was all the time, why? Oh, these Chinese, do they know what they are doing? These Asians, I mean, do they really know about art? Are they just buying it to show off or just for money, right? And I said, hey, listen, to be fair, you guys in the West, you think you're telling me that, you know, you buy when you walk towards your Ferrari and you get into your car in slow motion to be admired by all the lesser beings walking past, there's no vanity involved. I mean, you know, if you like a Ferrari, like a Ferrari. You want to show off, fine, you know, what's wrong with that? And also, you know, if you could make some money in the process, that is fine too. So the Chinese actually went on from strength to strength. And in between 2010 and 2014, China actually overtook the UK as a major art purchasing power. I think at the time, for the first time overtaking the UK, accounting for almost 20% of the world art market, which today is what, 65, 70 billion US, I think. So the rise of China was, and Asia was a crazy development. Originally, they were only buying Chinese art and appearing in auction houses locally in Asia, in Hong Kong. But gradually, you would see Chinese and Asian bidders in all the auction rooms all over the world. Not buying just Chinese art, but today, the Asians, the Chinese, are actually buying art at a very high level. Something like that would be something that would be very sought after by Asian collectors. Well, not just Asian, but global collectors. So that is what I've seen in the last 15, 20 years. If you go to Sotheby's now in New York, you know, you look at the flags flying above the entrance. When I first started, it was just British flag. There was an American flag, a Swiss flag, but no Chinese flag. But when the Chinese started buying, I actually said to my boss, I said, hey, listen, now you have to do things, give me a decent bonus, and also please fly the Chinese flag. And today you'll find a Chinese flag flying high above our New York office entrance. Anyway, I think my time is up.
I add something to what Kevin was just saying on the rise of China, also in how it has changed the profile of collectors. Something that characterize, I don't know the numbers for Sotheby's obviously, but I know the numbers for Christie. Something that characterize Asian collectors is they are on average 10 to 15 years younger than their European or American counterparts. So any metric that you take, number of millennial, value bought by millennials, you can always double the penetration of the young audience when you look at Asia. And being younger also means that the way they collect, that the way we as an auction house engage with them is different. They're obviously much more technologically savvy, but the spirit behind collecting has also something which is a bit less private, a bit more open, and that concept of shared economy is also something that they are embracing more easily maybe than the previous collection of collectors. And I think that dynamic just started to me. I think the way when you look at, I don't know if you want to talk about NFT today, but if you look at the way people were collecting and exhibiting NFT collection is extremely open. And it's completely in opposition to the way collectors generations ago have been collecting. You know, it's very hard to know what collectors have because they hide it.
So the average age now must be what, 30, 40 years old?
40 plus.
Amazing.
Yeah. And I think it's impacting the way collecting is being done, structured, shared. And when we come to eventually at some point sharing ownership of masterpieces, because we are in a market that is very elitist, a market where only few actually can afford to buy that kind of work, not only because they are rare, but also because the price tags are so high. I think it's something that certainly is going to come into play.
Thank you. If I could bring back the second slide, I would like to address our business model. I think for the last 20 minutes, we have addressed the first and the second path of our model, right? So I think, it's very, obvious and has very strong evidence that, like Rosaline, my partner here, has the ability and very special expertise in this pre-acquisition and post-acquisition value enhancement. So, Rosaline, based on what we're trying to do, could you share with us your experience, particularly, I have seen you done a great job in working with Christie and Kevin and, other institutions to bring this kind of museum art, make it a lot more easily accessible and available to the public. Could you share with us a few of your conclusion of this PAVE, how and why you think it's important?
Yes, I think post-acquisition enhancement value, that is something that obviously once an important museum quality work of art has been in particular important exhibitions, then people will become aware of it, knowledge of the work, the importance of the work, and that would definitely enhance the value and for people desire to own works that are on this level. So therefore, that is why exhibitions and educations goes hand in hand. And people, they need to be educated, they need to see enough of the artworks before they understand the purpose of collecting.
Thank you. Francis, I would like to ask you, before we prepare for this conference, you share with me a lot of numbers, right? So I want to use this opportunity to address this third and then fourth point of our business model, which is fractionalization and tokenization, as well as exchange. So what do you think of that?
The F word, fractionalization of art. Look, there's different approaches that have been taken in the past, 15, 20 years. You had arts exchange, you have art investment funds. It's not new to actually try to share the ownership of these amazing paintings. I think two things before I get into this. One is we are not investment advisors. I lead teams of art historians and specialists. And secondly, I think the spirit of collecting, as beautifully highlighted in the video with Dr. Cheng, is about the appreciation of art, is about philanthropy, is about being a custodian of a very important object for a certain period of your life before it goes into another private collection or into an institution. But structuring ways to actually give access to more people for these objects is not something new. And the numbers that we were referring to earlier kind of suggest also that there is an over-proportional part of the upside that is at the top of the market because of the rarity. Because the objects that are so rare, first, they are rare, and because they are rare and they are important, institutions would put them into their collections. There's more and more institutions being open. So you do the math, the supply has been shrinking when actually the demand is certainly not contracting at all. So this is pushing prices up. So I think there is demand. There's a problem out there that has not been solved. There is demand for having access to these objects, sharing part of it. And I would take even the bigger approach of where art sits. You have, pick a number, 8-10 trillion worth of art in the world, including what's in collections. I don't know, I haven't done the math, but I would guess it's about the right number. And in private collection, you probably have only 10% of it, which means that you have trillions that are sitting on the balance sheet of institutions that are not liquid. And when you know that most public institutions are struggling to pay the operating cost, that most institutions are throwing these lavish charity galas to get just a few millions to be able to add maybe one painting to their collection. I think there's just something here that would need to be done in giving access and unlocking the value that is actually on the balance sheet, just like you do when you list a company. If you're Mark Zuckerberg, you still have control of Facebook, yet you don't have 100% of the capital. This is not something that is today possible for major paintings.
Thank you.
Major works of art.
Kevin, you have anything to add?
I just want, because I was talking to Francis earlier, and you just had I'm a very nice guy. I'm advertising for Christie's too,
Thank you so much.
No, it's okay. My pleasure.
You should do it more, actually.
No, but you had a hugely successful Paul Allen sale in New York, right? How much did you make?
It was me personally, not much, but it was 1.62 billion US dollar in 2 sales.
Isn't that crazy?
About 200 works, yes. And 40% was in 5 works. And which says everything. So if 5 works above 100 million, and these 5 works in aggregate make 40%.
And then you're saying 30% of the value created by Asian collectors, Asian buyers, right?
So we had about 20, I think it's over 25%, 28% of the buying in value was Asian collectors, and all this is public, and 15% of the bidders in the first sale. You can imagine, you do the math on the average price, and we don't give paddles very easily, you know that, we're the same. 15% of the registrants were completely new to Christie's. So it's really interesting to see the drag that sale has had on actually recruiting new buyers at a very high level.
I brought up this point for a reason, because I think talking about art as an asset, I think is the point of diversification, right? Isn't it amazing? We had 2 years of COVID, right? We had 4 years of pretty bad time, and yet look at the results, right? If you look at Sotheby's results, we had our Hong Kong sales a month ago, and then we did, I think, $1 billion US, including commission, for the season. And before our sale, yours is coming up in a couple of weeks' time. We are really worried that, oh my God, we're going to do really badly because of COVID and everything. But no, your results, our results, ours was actually the highest in 4 years. So what we did this year, in fact, was a lot more than 4 years ago pre-COVID. So isn't it amazing that I think at least the timing difference would itself actually justify having art as an alternative investment. In the 80s, there was the Black Monday. I think then there was the internet bubble. And every time, I think the art market went on to break records after records, for another 2 years. So it was just amazing. And
I share this. Every time we have a sale, we read the news like everybody else. So I read the headlines that markets are tanking, that monetary policy is being tighter, that you have geopolitical tensions here and there. So every time we put up a sale and we start selling it, we're nervous, we're anxious. As an agency, we work on behalf of sellers and consignors. We're here to market their work and achieve the best results. And whether it's during the COVID time, first half, second half, 2021, or even this year, we always have that anxiety. And it's actually heartwarming for us when we see that you perform well at Sotheby's in your sale, because it does show that the market is, when you do our job well on selecting the best objects, the masterpieces, museum quality works, pieces that matter for collection of collectors, there's a demand, and prices are obviously still strong, even if the world seemed to be a much more challenging place today than it was last year.
Thanks, Francis and Kevin. Rosaline, what's your input on this part of the discussion, right? It's a traditional industry. We want to take it to another level.
Well, yes, I think so. As we just heard Kevin and Francis saying, even in a market like this, when everybody, there's uncertainties, there's situation of COVID, and yet the art market outperformed every single field. But at the end of the day, I think it's really down to museum quality works. So with the Paul Allen sale, that proved museum quality works were the one who had the biggest returns from that sale.
Well, we're very excited. What we're trying to do actually is to connect the art world with the money world by technology. So if I can share with you my hypothesis of return, I think what we're trying to create here is, to create an offer return that within the next 3 to 5 years, we think we can create approximately 60 to 80% of offer. I think the first step that we're talking about is, networking and sourcing advantage, which give us the advantage of maybe a 10% cost advantage. Then when we go to this PAVE, post-acquisition value enhancement, I think that actually can bring 30% premium to the market. Then when it comes to fractionalization and tokenization, is the idea of splitting Google, Apple, blue chips. So the bottom base of demand, I think, will create 20% extra offer. And I think one of the biggest, pain point in the industry when it comes to museum art is liquidity. So by building an exchange in Singapore, with this liquidity, I think is another 20%. So to go back to me from the money world, I think what it means is either we do a pretty interesting, high return in a short period of time, or we want to use Warren Buffett's idea to let the compound help us to generate longer term return, right? So I'm excited. Again, I want to thank everyone, the panel, and also SOT for us have this opportunity to share with you, particularly on this marvelous painting without Christie and Rosaline, Andy Warhol and Basquiat, will not have the chance to say hi to everybody today. Thank you.